I really try to not hate on what the kids are doing these days, especially.
This creator was super nice and was like, no hate, no shade. Well, I'm gonna throw lots of hate and lots of shade. Really just got yelled at the other day for being an overthinker about the way we dress and why I want to dress a certain way, but oh well. I actually think this is kind of different than the clean aesthetic. The blonde hair, the white skin, only wearing white, cream, and beige. Clear, glowing skin, no makeup, very angelic, very innocent. Is it a backlash to capitalism where they want to look kind of angelic and innocent? Or is it a backlash to racial tension?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
That's been obviously brewing for a long time, but really peaked at Floyd. And obviously, this is a trend that Black people and most other people of color cannot partake in. Why do you want to look so innocent? Why so childlike? What's going on? Am I crazy? Probably, but I'm right a lot of the time.
There he is! There's my favorite white boy!
Blonde hair, the white skin, only wearing white, cream, and beige.
I'm glad someone said it because it's been driving me crazy. So when people say they're into Black people, I hear, oh, I like chocolate. And so to hear this aesthetic called the vanilla girl aesthetic, and it's just thin white women, specifically blonde white women, which I did not realize was as big of a deal until recently. And it just feels like WASP, trad wife, purity culture repackaged for Gen Z. And we know that kind of has like an alt-right pipeline. And so I'm glad other people are sort of like questioning what this aesthetic is really about.
The internet has given us so many aesthetics. Like, aesthetics were born from the internet, I'm pretty sure, right? I might be miseducated on that, but we have things that have recently sprouted up, like dark academia. We have a whole bunch of the cores, cottage core. There's so many examples of aesthetics that have been blowing up recently, especially on platforms like Pinterest. So yeah, I'm very familiar with aesthetics. I'm sure you are too. I don't even think aesthetics really need an introduction here. So I stumbled across this video on my For You page. I'll go ahead and play it for you guys.
I really try to not hate on what the kids are doing these days.
This creator was super nice and was like, no hate, no shade. Well, I'm gonna throw lots of hate and lots of shade. Really just got yelled at the other day for being an overthinker about the way we dress and why I want to dress a certain way, but oh well. I actually think this is kind of different than the clean aesthetic. The blonde hair, the white skin, only wearing white, cream, and beige. Clear, glowing skin, no makeup, very angelic, very innocent. Is it a backlash to capitalism where they want to look kind of angelic and innocent? Or is it a backlash to racial tension? That's been obviously brewing for a long time, but really peaked at Floyd. And obviously, this is a trend that Black people and most other people of color cannot partake in. Why do you want to look so innocent? Why so childlike? What's going on? Am I crazy? Probably, but I'm right a lot of the time.
This video definitely made me automatically think, I know they did not turn whiteness into an aesthetic. And also, why are we equating whiteness to purity? I mean, I get what she was trying to do, but didn't rub me the right way. So I decided to look into this vanilla aesthetic, right? Because I wanted to give it a second chance because I hadn't heard of it before I watched this video. I decided to look into the aesthetic myself, go on Pinterest, scroll on YouTube a little bit, scroll through TikTok videos, and see what it's all about. And then I came across this other video saying it's basically purity culture of Gen Z.
Blonde hair, the white skin, only wearing white, cream, and beige.
I'm glad someone said it because it's been driving me crazy. So when people say they're into Black people, I hear, oh, I like chocolate. And so to hear this aesthetic called the vanilla girl aesthetic, and it's just thin white women, specifically blonde white women, which I did not realize was as big of a deal until recently. And it just feels like WASP trad wife purity culture repackaged for Gen Z, and we know that kind of has like an alt-right pipeline. And so I'm glad other people are sort of like questioning what this aesthetic is really about.
People in the comments of both videos were also comparing the aesthetic to that of Coquette. Girl, I don't know. The church aesthetic, the Ashley girl, Scandinavian style. I scrolled through different social media platforms doing my research, and I found that, the vanilla aesthetic consists of cream and white colored products and clothes, candles, nails, decor. It mostly to me seemed like a cute aesthetic. I decided to dig a little bit more deep into this and see if it's fair to categorize this vanilla aesthetic as whiteness. Are aesthetics overall kind of perpetuating a certain type of internalized racism? Are we the ones creating this internalized racism? Is it not necessarily the aesthetics themselves, but is it the platforms? Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead and get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Bosses, Curls, or Define, where we have conversations that have to do with being a busy woman in this type of society. I'm not going to tell you to subscribe, because if you want to, you will. But just don't forget. Like, don't get to the end of the video and be like, oh, I actually really enjoyed that video, and then just click off. I am definitely the type of person, I don't like to watch something and come to a conclusion. I don't even think I ever really come to any conclusions, to be honest. I find it hilarious when I make a video about a topic or something and people like get so emotionally riled up about it, because 9 times out of 10, I'm not even that emotionally attached to it. Like, the way I see it is, even science is theoretical. Like, even how H2O water is like perceived in physics and how we explain it in chemistry, that's just a theory. You see where I'm getting at? So you can never really come to a conclusive conclusion to anything. So yeah, keep that in mind. So I watched that video with a very, very small, tiny little grain of salt, because I felt a little bit of a narrative trying to be pushed, you know what I mean? I don't know where exactly I felt that narrative being pushed, but I definitely felt it. Guys, oh my goodness, I literally forgot to promote my stuff, and I'm literally wearing it. I'm not wearing any of my jewelry today, but I am wearing this lovely, versatile top. I actually just took pictures for it for my Depop shop. I do make jewelry as well. I will put some on the screen so you guys can see that your girl isn't playing around. And I have a lot more cute stuff coming out, bro. This is coming in multiple colors. Someone was asking if I do tie-dye. I just bought some dyes, so I'm gonna start working with that. I'm gonna start making some more fairy grunge type of stuff, because y'all know I love me a cute little fairy grunge, okay? So yeah, that along with my SoundCloud will be linked in the bio down below, because your girl makes music too. I can sing a little bit. Everything you're possibly looking for will be in the link titled right next to it. Everything you're looking for is right here, or something like that. With that being said, I watched this video with a grain of salt because I felt like there was some type of narrative this woman was trying to push. It was giving kind of like white savior, like, right? Like when I saw the vanilla, because I didn't even know about the vanilla, the vanilla aesthetic, right? Until I watched this video. And even just the way she was explaining, like, oh, it's all about purity and innocence. And she automatically mentions like something about how basically insinuates that Black women cannot be innocent and pure. I mean, and also like there's something to be said about this whole conversation of like innocence and purity. I mean, I don't like the fact that we're equating colors and a vibe to personality traits and skin tones. That's another conversation. I was literally just talking to someone about how like people call me chocolate, and that's not a compliment. Like, that's just weird. That's very objectifying. So I mean, for me personally, when I watched this video, I automatically started thinking, I don't know if that's what this aesthetic is necessarily trying to do. I think that's just kind of what our brain automatically went to. And that says a lot more about our internalized shit. Like, I don't think that says anything about the aesthetic itself. Even for me personally, because I have a very curated Pinterest board. Like, I think Pinterest pretty much knows what I like. So now when I searched the vanilla aesthetic, it was mostly Black women, because I'm a Black woman and, you know, my algorithm is different. But I'm sure if I went in with, you know, a fresh, clean algorithm, like on incognito mode, and searched for the vanilla aesthetic, there might have been white women that pop up first. However, I don't think that has anything to do with the aesthetic itself. I think that has more so to do with Pinterest itself and like algorithms and social media. And that's another conversation that has been had time and time again on social media. And that's the conversation of, in society in general. And that's the conversation of us, Black women, not being the forefront. It's always like the default is always whiteness. So even for me to curate my Pinterest feed to show Black women first, I obviously had to sort through a lot of people who didn't look like me. And yeah, definitely on social media, the default is whiteness. So when you're going to search basically any aesthetic, unless if it has something to do with specifically being a Black woman, you're probably not going to see a Black woman at the top of the For You page. However, I will say on TikTok, when I was searching for this whole vanilla aesthetic video, or this whole vanilla aesthetic, I came across this TikTok. And of course, as you guys can see, there's no woman of color in it, right? So in the comments, people were talking about like, so we're the Black women, like Black women can't be a part of this too. They follow up by making a response or a reply to one of these comments saying, well, what about the Black girls? With the vanilla aesthetic has nothing to do with race. And in that video, they include Black women. I do find that a little bit odd, because I think like, like why did you only do that when people called you out for it? But that's not limited to the vanilla aesthetic. That is across the board. I mean, we see it all the time. I think the most offensive example of this happening is in streetwear, right? So a lot of streetwear pages on Instagram will, and by the way, streetwear is heavily influenced by hip hop, Black, Latin culture. So a lot of these, you know, streetwear, cyber Y2K pages will only post a specific type of person, and will maybe if they're inclusive page, they'll include like one or maybe a couple Black girls sprinkled in throughout the page. But there have been many times where a lot of these pages will get called out for not having any Black girls on their feed at all. And then when the backlash gets loud enough, like then they'll throw in a Black girl just for the fun of it. But like I said, I don't think that's necessarily to do with the vanilla aesthetic itself or aesthetics similar to it, but I think it has something to do with just our internalized racism. I think we try to do this thing where we pin all of society's problems on one thing. So we're trying to blame a systemic exclusion of Black women and people of color in general on one aesthetic. Oh, look at this vanilla aesthetic. Like, it's so weird. And it's the same thing with like the cinnamon aesthetic, right? That's a new aesthetic too. But to me, it seems like maybe just an aesthetic of browns and like, I don't know, like dark tea, coffee, cinnamon. Those girls who like cinnamon frappes. I think I would honestly consider myself a part of that cinnamon girl aesthetic or whatever, because of just like the color tones that I use in my wardrobe and so on and so forth. And I think that's kind of what the aesthetic is about. But I do find it interesting that the first correlation our brain went to when we see vanilla aesthetic is that of skin tone. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think there's anything wrong with the vanilla aesthetic, to be honest. I think it more so has to do with the actual color tones of vanilla and like, you know, just smelling like vanilla, because I know if you think about it, you have met someone who fits that vanilla aesthetic, like those girls who dress kind of like similar, like they might not have the spiciest wardrobe, you know, they use a lot of vanilla scents, they like vanilla a lot. I was definitely in that era when I was younger, and I would say even now, like I said, I dress in a lot of like neutrals and cool tones and stuff like that more recently. So I didn't see the outrage. I truly did not. So back to the video that elicited this video in the first place. I think she was kind of trying to do, I see what she was trying to do. She was trying to do a good thing, and I think she was just misdirecting the outrage in a way, right? So I see where she's coming from in the sense that like this vanilla aesthetic, like, is it meant to exclude black women? But I just don't think that the whole purity and innocence thing should be equated to whiteness at all, especially if that's not being heavily implied, because there are a lot of content pieces out there with with black women in this vanilla aesthetic, and it's the same thing with coquette, right? Like, black women can very much be in that genre. Same thing with cottagecore. Black women can and very well are in that genre. I think what maybe threw people off a little bit was the vanilla name, which I get, but again, it's the same thing with like the chocolate thing. We should not be equating human beings to objects or food items, right? And mind you, too, vanilla itself, I'm pretty sure vanilla bean is brown, and vanilla extract itself is brown too. So I think the outrage was very much misplaced. Definitely black women need to be the forefront of beauty in America, especially if that's what we're trying to say is the case. Like, I feel like racism in America, the problem with it and the reason why it probably won't go anywhere anytime soon is because it's very quiet, it's very subtle. You have to either be a black woman or a person of color, or you have to be extremely aware, which, let's be realistic, that is a very rare quality to have. So yeah, anyways guys, like I said, I do not come to conclusion.
Chelsea, come on now.
You bought the same jacket as the girl.
Chelsea, come on now.
Right. You bought the same outfit as the girl.
Chelsea, come on now.
I do not come to conclusive conclusions ever. So there are still so many nuances to this conversation. Keep that in mind, but still let me know what you thought about this whole whiteness as an aesthetic conversation in the comments down below. I definitely think that whiteness is overall the aesthetic, like the aesthetic in the West. I don't think it's narrowed down to one aesthetic. I will see you guys on another video soon. The Boss Bee is signing out.